Between 1997 and 2001, a string of murders terrified the small town of Harrison, Ohio. The case was unlike anything local law enforcement had ever seen. Each victim was found posed in an eerily peaceful manner, eyes closed, hands clasped across their chest, almost as if they were in prayer. But it was the detail left behind that truly sent a chill down everyone's spine. Next to every single body was a small, unassuming glass jar. On the outside of each jar, a single word was written in neat, deliberate handwriting. The word was always the same: taken. The media, always quick to sensationalize, dubbed the killer the collector of souls. For years, the police chased shadows, trying to piece together the puzzle of a killer who left no clues, only a cryptic signature. What they didn't know then, and what some fear to this day, is that even after they caught their man, his work might have never truly stopped. This is the story of the collector of souls. The chilling saga began on a quiet, rainy night. The first victim was a 29-year-old librarian named Rebecca Klein, discovered in her own home on October 14, 1997. When police arrived, they were immediately struck by the scene's strange tranquility. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry, and nothing had been stolen. It was as if Rebecca had simply laid down to rest and never woken up. Her body was deliberately positioned, lying peacefully on her bed with her hands placed over her chest in that now infamous prayer-like pose. But on her nightstand sat the first piece of the killer's S. macabre puzzle, a small glass jar, sealed tightly. Inside, officers found a neatly folded piece of paper with that one chilling word: taken. Investigators were baffled. They initially suspected some kind of ritualistic killing, but the scene lacked any of the usual tells. There were no religious symbols, no candles, no strange markings on the walls. There was just the body, the jar, and that single haunting word. This was only the beginning of a 4-year reign of terror that would grip the entire state of Ohio in fear. Over the next 4 years, the body count rose. 5 more victims appeared across Ohio, all discovered in the same disturbing state: a calm, serene expression on their face, hands clasped as if in prayer, and that telltale glass jar marked taken, placed nearby. The killer was meticulous, and a clear pattern began to emerge. While the core ritual remained the same, the contents of the jars started to vary. Each new jar contained something different: a small trinket, a scrap of fabric, and in one case, even a photograph of the victim from their childhood. It was as if the killer was collecting not just a life, but a piece of their very essence. As detectives dug deeper, they unearthed a crucial link that tied all the victims together. It wasn't their age, their profession, or where they lived. It was something from their past. Every single victim at some point in their lives had volunteered at the St. Luke's Community Shelter in Harrison. This wasn't a random spree. It was a hunt. The media frenzy exploded, solidifying the killer's moniker, the collector of souls. Lead detectives on the case described him as meticulous, patient, and deeply personal. He wasn't killing for the sake of it. He was choosing his victims with cold, calculated precision, and for a reason only he understood. Finally, in 2001, a breakthrough came. Police arrested a man named Daniel Rourke, a quiet, unassuming maintenance worker who had been employed at the St. Luke's Community Shelter for over a decade. He was the kind of person who fades into the background, polite and reserved, the last person anyone would suspect of such heinous crimes. But what detectives found in his basement confirmed their worst fears. They discovered over a dozen more glass jars, all neatly arranged on a shelf. Some were labeled "taken," just like the ones at the crime scenes. Others had different words: "kept," "freed." Inside each jar was a personal item: lockets, jewelry, hairpins, and other small keepsakes. Through painstaking investigation, these items were linked to a string of missing persons cases that stretched back nearly a decade, long before the first official victim was found. During his interrogation, Rourke was unnervingly calm. He refused to speak, offering no confession and no explanation. He said only one cryptic sentence before demanding a lawyer: "You can't take what has already been taken." Psychiatrists who later evaluated him described a man calmly detached from reality. In his mind, he wasn't a killer. He believed he was a savior, collecting the souls of his victims to preserve them from a world of suffering. The trial of Daniel Rourke was a media circus, but it was a piece of evidence found hidden away that sealed his fate. Prosecutors revealed a chilling VHS tape that detectives had discovered tucked into a ceiling panel in Rourke's home. The footage was grainy and dark, showing only Rourke's face as he spoke directly to the camera. His voice was monotone, devoid of emotion, as he said, "They begged for peace. I only helped them sleep." Forensic experts testified that the timestamps on the tape corresponded perfectly with the nights of each of the 6 murders. With that, the jury had no doubts. Daniel Rourke was found guilty on 6 counts of homicide and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The case was officially closed. Justice, it seemed, had been served, but then a disturbing discovery was made. Weeks after the verdict, while combing through the wooded area near Rourke's home, officers found 3 additional jars. They were identical to the others, but each was labeled with a date that came asterisk after asterisk his arrest. Police had no explanation. Rourke was in a maximum security prison. He couldn't have placed them there. To this day, those 3 jars remain in a police evidence locker, sealed, untouched, and unexplained. The story of the collector of souls didn't end with Daniel Rourke's conviction. Lingering questions and unsettling theories continue to haunt the case. Some investigators have always believed that Rourke had an accomplice, someone who shared his twisted ideology and is still out there, perhaps continuing his work. Others think the jars found after his arrest were simply part of a larger, long-term ritual he had set in motion years before he was ever caught. And then there's the strange, dark footnote to this already grim story. 2 of the original lead detectives on the case died under mysterious circumstances, both within months of handling the evidence jars from Rourke's basement. Officially, their deaths were ruled accidental and unrelated. Unofficially, whispers and superstitions persist. Officially, the case is closed. But unofficially, for those who know the full story, it is anything but. We may never truly know whether Daniel Rourke believed he was saving souls or simply stealing them, a righteous collector or a cold-blooded killer. His motives are locked away with him, perhaps forever, but somewhere, sitting quietly on a shelf in a dark evidence room, 16 glass jars still wait, sealed tight, holding their secrets. And if you ever find yourself visiting the small town of Harriston, Ohio, on a quiet night, locals say you can still sometimes hear the faint, chilling sound of glass clinking in the woods. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as chilling as we did, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most unsettling true stories.